Have you ever wondered how much control your emotions have over your life and decisions? Imagine, if you will, a world where every decision you make, every action you take, is dictated not by logic or reason, but by the whims of your emotions. This is the realm of emotional intelligence, where feelings wield a power that can shape destinies. Our emotions, as complex and varied as they are, can be our greatest allies or our worst enemies. We've all experienced those moments when our emotions took the driver's seat, leading us down paths of impulsivity and regret. It's a seemingly uncontrollable force, a tidal wave that sweeps us off our feet and carries us wherever it pleases. But what if you could harness this wave? What if you could steer it in the direction you want? What if, instead of being a puppet to your emotions, you became the puppeteer? But what happens when you take control of your emotions instead of letting them control you? Consider the story of John, a man who was once entirely ruled by his emotions. Picture a life where every decision, every reaction was dictated not by logic or reason, but by the raw, unfiltered sway of emotion. That was John's world. John was a man who wore his heart on his sleeve, and not in a sentimental, charming way. No, his emotions were a tyrant, ruling his life with an iron fist. When he was angry, he exploded, leaving a trail of hurt feelings and damaged relationships in his wake. When he was sad, he withdrew, isolating himself from the world and sinking into a pit of despair. When he was happy, he was reckless, throwing caution to the wind and making decisions that he would later regret. His emotional reactions were like a hurricane, unpredictable and destructive. They cost him friendships, opportunities, and a sense of peace. His relationships were a roller coaster of highs and lows with no stable ground. His career was a series of missed opportunities, as his emotional reactions often led to poor decisions. He was a man on the edge, teetering between extremes, never finding that elusive balance. John's life was a testament to the power of unchecked emotions. It was a life of chaos, of turmoil, and ultimately of dissatisfaction. He was a man who had everything, yet he had nothing, for his emotions robbed him of the ability to truly appreciate and enjoy his successes. His emotions ruled him, they owned him, they were his master. But John's life is not a tale of despair. It's a cautionary tale, yes, but it's also a story of hope, because John's life didn't stay that way. He wasn't destined to forever be a slave to his emotions. He wasn't doomed to live a life of emotional chaos. Then, one day, John had an epiphany. John realized he was not his emotions. He was the person experiencing them. This marked the beginning of his transformation, a journey towards emotional intelligence. John started with self-reflection, a mirror held to his mind's eye. He began to see the patterns of his emotional reactions. Like a detective, he traced back to the origins of these patterns. Every night he would sit in the stillness and replay the day, examining his emotional responses, their triggers, and the actions they led to. He began to understand that his emotions were not random, but reactions to external stimuli, and he had the power to control his response. Next came the learning phase. John dived into books, podcasts, and workshops that taught about emotional intelligence. He discovered that emotions were like the weather, constantly changing, and he was the sky, always constant. He learned about the power of mindfulness, of being present in the moment, of observing his emotions without judgment. Then came the practice. John started applying what he learned in his daily life. It wasn't easy. There were days when he fell back into old patterns, reacting impulsively to situations, but he didn't let these moments of failure deter him. Instead, he saw them as opportunities to learn, to understand better. He practiced the art of pause, taking a moment to breathe before responding to a situation. He began to see the space between stimulus and response, and in that space he found his freedom. John's struggles were many, but so were his victories. Every time he chose response over reaction, he felt a sense of achievement. He saw his relationships improve, his stress levels reduce, and his overall quality of life enhance. John's life began to change in ways he never imagined. He was no longer a slave to his emotions. He had become the master of his mind, the captain of his ship, navigating the turbulent seas of emotions with grace and strength. He had transformed not by suppressing his emotions, but by understanding them, accepting them, and learning to navigate them. He was no longer an emotional fool. He was emotionally intelligent. No longer a slave to his emotions, John started making decisions that aligned with his values and goals. Imagine a world where John was no longer a puppet, with his emotions pulling the strings. He stepped into a realm where clarity reigned and emotional chaos took a back seat. It was a world where his decisions were no longer dictated by spur-of-the-moment feelings, but were, instead, guided by a clear understanding of his own values, aspirations, and the larger picture of his life. John's relationships started to flourish like never before. He was able to listen, truly listen, to people around him. He developed empathy, understood others' perspectives, and responded with kindness and respect. His relationships were no longer a roller coaster of emotional highs and lows, but a steady journey of mutual understanding and growth. His career took a turn for the better as well. John was no longer the man who crumbled under pressure or let anger dictate his professional interactions. He became a leader who could handle criticism, navigate workplace dynamics, and make rational decisions even in the face of adversity. His newfound emotional intelligence did not just earn him a promotion, it earned him the respect of his colleagues and superiors. But perhaps the most significant transformation was in John's personal fulfillment. He was no longer at the mercy of his emotions. He did not wake up fearing what emotional turmoil the day might bring. Instead, he woke up with a sense of purpose, a calmness, a control over his life that he had never experienced before. He was happier, more content, more at peace with himself and the world around him. John's life was no longer a battlefield where emotions waged war against his peace of mind. It was a symphony where every emotion had its place, its rhythm, and its harmony. He was no longer a slave to his emotions. He was their master. The transformation was not overnight. It took time, understanding, and a lot of self-work. But the result was a life that was richer, fuller, and much more fulfilling. John had transformed his life all by taking control of his emotions. So, what does John's story mean for you? You might be wondering, how does this all tie back to you, right? Well, John's journey isn't just his own. His story is a mirror reflecting the silent battles fought within each one of us. It's about the tug-of-war between our heart and mind, the struggle between our emotions and reason. But remember, like John, you too have the power to control your emotions and transform your life. Let's talk about emotional intelligence. It's not just a buzzword, it's a skill. And like any other skill, it can be developed and nurtured. It begins with self-awareness. Recognizing your emotions as they arise, understanding their source, and acknowledging their impact on your decisions and actions. That's the first step. Next comes self-regulation. It's about learning to control those intense emotions that can lead us astray. It's about finding a balance, a middle ground where your emotions don't control you but rather guide you. It's not about suppressing them, but managing them effectively. Then there's empathy. It's about understanding others' emotions, stepping into their shoes, and seeing the world from their perspective. Empathy brings about better relationships, better communication, better understanding. It's a bridge connecting hearts and minds. And then, social skills. It's about how you interact with others, how you communicate your feelings, your thoughts, your ideas. It's about being assertive, yet respectful, clear, yet empathetic. It's about creating a positive impact on the world around you. John's story is a testament to the power of emotional intelligence. It's a testament to the power of change, of growth, of transformation. And this power resides within you. You hold the reins to your emotions. You are the master of your mind. Take these steps, practice them, make them a part of your daily life. Notice the change within you, in your relationships, in your work, in your life. Remember, you are not your emotions. You are the person experiencing them. You are more than the sum of your feelings. You are a human being with the power to control, to transform, and to thrive. Harness this power, shape your life, make your story one of transformation, just like John's. Controlling your emotions doesn't mean suppressing them. A common misconception is that emotional intelligence equates to emotional suppression. This couldn't be further from the truth. Emotional intelligence is about understanding, acknowledging, and managing your emotions. It's about being in tune with your feelings, not denying them. It's about knowing when to let your emotions flow and when to rein them in for your own good and the good of those around you. Think of it as a river. A river that's allowed to flow unchecked can cause destruction, but a river that's too tightly controlled can dry up, causing life around it to wither. The key is balance. Allow your emotions to flow, but guide them in a direction that's constructive and healthy. So, how do you achieve this balance? It's about self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, and understanding. It's about knowing yourself and your emotional triggers. It's about learning to respond, not react. Remember, emotional intelligence is not about being emotionless, but about being less at the mercy of your emotions.